Imagine a world where nations, once thriving with rich cultures, histories, and identities, simply cease to exist. Entire empires, kingdoms, and republics that once played significant roles on the world stage are now mere memories. What happens when a country vanishes from the map? How do the people, the traditions, and the legacies of those nations survive in the modern world? In this video, we're going to explore the top 10 countries that no longer exist, countries that once had their place on the global map, but for various reasons disappeared over time. Number 10. Rhodesia. Rhodesia, a former British colony in southern Africa, no longer exists in its original form, but left an indelible mark on the history of the continent. The country, named after British imperialist Cecil Rhodes, declared independence from Britain in 1965 under the government of Ian Smith, which was largely composed of the white minority. The move, which was a unilateral declaration of independence, was not recognized by Britain or the international community. The country faced heavy sanctions and increasing international isolation as a result. Rhodesia's existence was defined by a brutal struggle between the white minority government and the black majority population, leading to a protracted civil war known as the Rhodesian Bush War, 1964 to 1979. Black liberation movements, particularly the Zimbabwe African National Union, ZANU, and Zimbabwe African People's Union, ZAPU, fought for independence, demanding majority rule and an end to racial discrimination. After years of intense conflict and negotiations, Rhodesia finally transitioned to independence under the name Zimbabwe in 1980, with Robert Mugabe becoming its first prime minister. The change marked the end of Rhodesia, but its legacy remains controversial, especially regarding the issues of racial tensions, land distribution, and economic challenges in post-independence Zimbabwe. Number 9. Tibet. Tibet, once a peaceful and autonomous region in the heart of the Himalayas, no longer exists as an independent country. Known for its unique culture, language, and Buddhist traditions, Tibet was a sovereign state for centuries before coming under increasing pressure from neighboring powers. In the 1950s, China sought to bring Tibet under its control, citing historical claims over the region. In 1950, Chinese troops entered Tibet, and by 1951, Tibet was officially incorporated into the People's Republic of China under the 17-Point Agreement, which was signed under duress by Tibetan representatives. The annexation led to widespread unrest and resistance within Tibet, culminating in the 1959 Tibetan Uprising, which resulted in the Dalai Lama, the spiritual and political leader of Tibet, fleeing to India. Despite international outcry, China solidified its control over Tibet, which remains a controversial issue to this day. While Tibet is now an autonomous region within China, it is often considered a captive nation by its supporters. The region's unique identity, culture, and religion have faced significant pressures under Chinese rule, with many Tibetans continuing to seek greater autonomy and recognition of their rights. The plight of Tibet remains one of the most enduring and unresolved issues of the 20th century, symbolizing the struggle for independence in the face of foreign domination. Number 8. The Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, or USSR, was one of the most powerful and influential nations of the 20th century. At its peak, the Soviet Union controlled vast territories across Europe, Central Asia, and the Caucasus, with its capital in Moscow. Formed in 1922 after the Russian Revolution and the collapse of the Russian Empire, the USSR became a global superpower during the Cold War, standing as a direct rival to the United States in terms of military strength, political ideology, and global influence. However, despite its immense power, the Soviet Union was not immune to the pressures of internal unrest and external changes. Economic stagnation, political repression, and a lack of reforms led to widespread dissatisfaction among its people. In 1991, after years of political and economic turmoil, the Soviet Union formally dissolved, splitting into 15 independent republics, with Russia as its successor. The fall of the Soviet Union marked the end of the Cold War and led to the emergence of a new geopolitical order, but it also left behind deep scars in the form of economic hardship, regional conflicts, and political instability in many of the former Soviet states. The collapse of the Soviet Union remains one of the most significant events of the 20th century, reshaping the world map and influencing global politics in ways that continue to impact the world today. The USSR's legacy is one of both achievement and tragedy, as its once strong grip on a vast empire crumbled under the weight of its own contradictions. Number 7. Prussia. Prussia, a powerful German state and the driving force behind the unification of Germany, no longer exists as an independent entity. It was one of Europe's most military influential states from the 17th century until its dissolution in the early 20th century. Prussia emerged as a major power in the Holy Roman Empire and played a key role in shaping European history through its military prowess, disciplined bureaucracy, and strong monarchy. Under the leadership of Frederick the Great in the 18th century, Prussia became one of Europe's foremost military powers. The kingdom's influence expanded across much of modern-day Germany, Poland, and parts of Austria. In the 19th century, Otto von Bismarck, the Prussian prime minister, orchestrated the unification of Germany, establishing the German Empire in 1871, with the King of Prussia, Wilhelm I, as emperor. After World War I and the defeat of Germany, Prussia was weakened and eventually abolished as a political entity in 1947 by the Allied powers following World War II. Its territories were divided among several countries, primarily Poland and the Soviet Union, and its historical legacy became a source of complex feelings in the post-war period. The dissolution of Prussia marked the end of an era for Germany, and its legacy of military discipline, efficiency, and statecraft lives on in the history of modern Germany, albeit without the state that once embodied these values. Number 6. Sikkim. Sikkim, a small but strategically significant kingdom nestled in the Himalayas, no longer exists as an independent country. Located between India, Nepal, and China, Sikkim had a rich cultural history and was known for its unique blend of Tibetan and Indian influences. For centuries, it was a peaceful, sovereign kingdom ruled by the Chogal dynasty. However, Sikkim's fate was irrevocably changed in the 20th century due to geopolitical pressures. In 1947, when India gained independence, Sikkim retained its status as a protectorate under British India. Following India's independence, the Chogal, king of Sikkim, Palden Thondop Namgyal, sought to preserve his kingdom's independence while maintaining friendly relations with India. However, the increasing political instability and pressure from India led to the kingdom's gradual integration into India. In 1975, after a period of internal strife and political agitation, India formally annexed Sikkim, and it became the 22nd state of India. The annexation marked the end of Sikkim as an independent nation, and today its unique culture and history are preserved as part of India's diverse heritage. Despite this, the legacy of Sikkim's sovereignty remains a significant part of its history, highlighting the complexities of regional autonomy in a post-colonial world. Number 5. East Germany. East Germany, or the German Democratic Republic, GDR, was a country that existed between 1949 and 1990 during the Cold War era. It was created following the division of Germany after World War II, with the Soviet Union controlling the eastern portion and the Western Allies, the United States, United Kingdom, and France, controlling the western part. East Germany became a socialist state under the influence of the Soviet Union, while West Germany became a democratic republic aligned with the West. East Germany was marked by strict communist governance, with a centralized economy and an oppressive state security apparatus, most famously represented by the Stasi, the secret police. The Berlin Wall, erected in 1961, symbolized the division of Germany and the ideological split between the capitalist West and the communist East. For decades, East Germany was isolated from the rest of the world, with its citizens restricted from travel and subjected to state surveillance. However, the political and economic instability of the late 1980s, combined with the broader collapse of the Soviet influence in Eastern Europe, led to the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. In 1990, East Germany officially reunified with West Germany, marking the end of the GDR. The reunification of Germany remains one of the most significant events in European history, symbolizing the end of the Cold War and the triumph of democracy over authoritarianism. The disappearance of East Germany led to the reunification of a once divided nation and reshaped the geopolitical landscape of Europe. Number 4. United Arab Republic. The United Arab Republic, UAR, was a political union between Egypt and Syria that lasted from 1958 to 1961. The dream behind this union was to create a single, united Arab state that could rival the influence of Western powers in the Middle East. It was a symbol of Pan-Arabism, a movement that sought to unite Arab countries under a single political and cultural umbrella. The UAR was born out of the efforts of the Egyptian president Gamal Abdel Nasser, who was a strong advocate for Arab unity and believed that a united Arab state would provide a greater platform for economic, political, and military strength. The union was formalized after a military coup in Syria, which overthrew the pro-Western government there, paving the way for the merger with Egypt. However, the union quickly faced significant challenges, especially the differences between the two nations. Syria and Egypt had vastly different political cultures and economic priorities, which led to tensions and internal conflicts. In 1961, following a coup in Syria that overthrew its government, Syria formally withdrew from the union, effectively ending the United Arab Republic. Although the dream of the United Arab State faded with the dissolution of the UAR, the legacy of Nasser's pan-Arab vision continues to influence political movements in the Arab world. The UAR's brief existence represents a pivotal moment in the history of Arab nationalism and the struggle for unity in a region that remains politically fragmented. Number 3. Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia, a country located in Central Europe, no longer exists in its original form, but its impact on European history remains profound. Formed after World War I in 1918, formed from the dissolution of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Czechoslovakia was one of the newly created democracies in Europe. It consisted of two main ethnic groups, Czechs in the west and Slovaks in the east, with both groups having distinct cultures, languages, and histories. Czechoslovakia faced numerous challenges over the decades, including the rise of Nazism in the 1930s and the eventual occupation of the country by Germany during World War II. After the war, Czechoslovakia became a communist state under Soviet influence, which led to political repression and the suppression of civil liberties. However, it also experienced a brief period of reform during the Prague Spring of 1968, which was violently crushed by Soviet forces. The fall of communism in 1989, as part of the broader wave of political changes in Eastern Europe, led to the peaceful Velvet Revolution, which dismantled the communist regime. In 1993, Czechoslovakia peacefully split into two independent countries, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. The dissolution of Czechoslovakia marked the end of a unique and significant experiment in multi-ethnic statehood, and was a reflection of the broader changes sweeping Eastern Europe at the time. Today, both the Czech Republic and Slovakia have become modern democratic states, but the history of Czechoslovakia remains a key chapter in the story of 20th century Europe. Number 2. The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was one of the most powerful and enduring empires in world history, lasting over 600 years, from the 14th century until its collapse at the end of World War I. Spanning much of southeastern Europe, Western Asia, and North Africa, it was a significant political, military, and cultural force that shaped the history of the Middle East, Europe, and the Balkans. At its peak, the Ottoman Empire controlled vast territories, including modern-day Turkey, Greece, Egypt, Iraq, and parts of the Arabian Peninsula. The empire was a multi-ethnic, multi-religious entity, and its rulers, the sultans, presided over a diverse population with varying languages, customs, and religions. However, by the 19th century, the empire had begun to decline, suffering from internal divisions, military defeats, and the rise of nationalism among the people in its territories. The empire's final collapse came after its defeat in World War I, which resulted in the loss of most of its territories. In 1922, following the Turkish War of Independence, led by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, the last Ottoman Sultan was deposed, and the Republic of Turkey was established, marking the end of the Ottoman Empire. The disintegration of the empire gave rise to several new nations and conflicts in the Middle East and the Balkans. The legacy of the Ottoman Empire is still felt today, influencing the political and cultural landscape of many modern countries. Number 1. Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was a country in southeastern Europe that, at its height, was a multi-ethnic federation comprising 6 republics: Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and Macedonia. Created after World War I in 1918, Yugoslavia initially emerged as the kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovens, later becoming a socialist federation after World War II under the leadership of Josip Broz Tito. Tito's leadership helped maintain unity within the country by balancing the ethnic and religious tensions between the different republics. Yugoslavia became a prominent socialist state, known for its non-alignment during the Cold War and its unique position in the international community. However, after Tito's death in 1980, the political instability of the country began to unravel. The economic decline, rising nationalism, and ethnic tensions between the republics intensified during the 1990s, leading to a series of violent conflicts known as the Yugoslav Wars. The country ultimately dissolved in the early 1990s as Slovenia and Croatia declared independence in 1991, followed by other republics. The breakup of Yugoslavia led to brutal wars, genocide, and the emergence of new independent states. The region has since been reshaped by the creation of several countries, including Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, North Macedonia, Montenegro, and Kosovo, which declared independence from Serbia in 2008. Yugoslavia's collapse and the subsequent wars have had a lasting impact on the Balkan region, with the scars of the conflict still visible in the political and ethnic divisions of the area today.